All right. Good morning, guys. Checking my teeth. I had something right here. And I just got done brushing. Anyways, what's going on today? So I've got to do some homework for work, and I just called the court, asked for a change of address form sent to me. They said it wouldn't go out today. It'd have to be like Monday, so I asked for them to email it to me. So, what's going on? So, motorcycle weekend this week, right? And this is like 10 days before my husband and I have had our firstborn son. He was born on the 17th, and it's always a special time for me to think about when we had our firstborn son. And my husband, what am I doing with divorce? So Kevin Leandro has said, oh, she's making a circus out of divorce on her channel. I'm not the one who asked for divorce, so I didn't plan on talking about divorce on my YouTube channel here. I am here to help women and help women and mothers to keep their babies, to have a life. It's not just mothering, it's a family life. Family life is so important. So, so it starts with us, right, ladies? I mean, it starts with the man first of all pursuing us, and then us as women cultivating family. So, my husband chose to abandon us. We lost our housing. It wasn't him who was left in his truck in his narrative. We had a family crisis. A lot of people do this. They have family crises and you get through it. The guy who Ubered me yesterday, he was talking about how they lost housing in, what was it? It was right around COVID, and the landlord hadn't put up their rent like the landlord did for us by $300, but he didn't put the rent up at all, and then all of a sudden he wanted to sell. So after 5 years of being there, he said that they had no idea how much the housing market went up. They went from 1,100 to now wanting 2,300. So they were left homeless, and they had to split their they had to split their family. She had to take the youngest to her mother's with her, and he had to go over to a friend's with their oldest daughter. So this happens to families, and it's not what caused their breakup. So for my husband to be like, oh, you left me in my truck, and, he made up a whole story. So I am going with, I was thinking last night, how do I want to approach court this time? Um, the court said our new hearing, because it was incomplete, is August 22nd at 9 o'clock. I am going to be putting in paperwork for abandonment. There's 4 types. My husband has abandoned our family. In like all 4 ways, he has abandoned us. So, he's off. Last year, about this time, he was off to Motorcycle Week, something he said he never liked in life, never went to in life because he didn't want to. I had housing in Laconia. Before I left, I had an opportunity there. He didn't want it. There was an opportunity at another place. I asked him if he wanted it in Concord. He didn't really want it. He just didn't want to be married. He didn't want to provide housing for his family. And he didn't come over here with us. He had opportunity to come here. This was the final decision that was made, and he didn't want to come over here with us. So he chose repeatedly to to stay in his truck after we had made up. After I have lots of receipts and everything of us making up after he threw me. I gave him another chance. I wouldn't have usually done that with any other person assaulting me, but he was my husband. I knew something was going on. He was going through a hard time. He assaulted me, and I said, "You're in your truck. No question about it. No question. It's not acceptable. My sons didn't need to see this. Not okay." And they saw a mother standing up for herself, saying, "It's not okay what you just did." And he whined and cried and said, well, he came back and said at one point, he missed his family, and he was crying. And I'm like, I'm sorry you miss your family, but you chose to push me and you're not coming back right now. So he was in his truck in the winter, and he's like, if you forgive me, why am I still being punished? Why am I still in my truck? And I'm like, I forgive you, but you are still in your truck right now because I don't trust that you're not going to do this again. You are continually verbally abusing your wife. I mean, it was Jekyll and Hyde. It was, oh, I'm going to kick your ass. And then it was, I'm sorry I said that. And it just escalated. It just mounted. It was like, I remember one job right before I went in, he was screaming bloody murder at me. And I went in and I went to go talk to someone at Macris Lobster House. And Greg at the time, who I worked for years ago, who was an alcoholic, was just, I stood by the dishwasher to ask him a question and he took a fit. And it didn't take much at that point, after being screamed at by my husband, for me to say, I'm not putting up with this. And that's like the one job I walked out of without a word, was the Macris place. I had worked for them before and had a knife thrown at me. And Greg had apologized, and I thought he had changed. So years later, so I worked for him. So I just walked out, and the lady at the desk says, hey, Greg's like this, and I go, he may be like this, but I don't have to put up with it. And I just walked out and never looked back. So my husband, it's really hard for a woman to, deal with work issues when she's got a husband screaming at her. So because he had, not changed enough, I mean, not really, you can say sorry as much as you want, but if you don't see a change, it's, it's like, okay, you really aren't sorry. So he was tested, and when we came over here, he chose to abandon us. We were working it out. We had stayed in hotels together. And then I said, look, I can't find any more housing in New Hampshire. You had a couple options you didn't want with me. We're not going to be homeless. This hotel, we can't sustain the hotel thing. And so we left, and as soon as I turned my back, he, made up a story about me and told his whole family to play the victim, that he was left in his truck when he could have come here easily. And, even then, his sons were warming back up to him. I mean, they were starting, one of them, he fixed his bike. He was starting to warm back up to him. And the other one wasn't as trusting, but there was hope, after what he did. And so he took that opportunity to run with it and to put himself first. And so abandonment will be put in the divorce. He dropped communication. He was sending some money, and I'm like, look, we also have this to pay. We have insurance to pay. He didn't want to do it, so he dropped the money down, and then he just kept dropping it and didn't want to send anything. And, I remember a phone call of him when I was here, I think it was September, saying, I'm sick of you, and actually taking a fit like he used to at work. So, yeah, I'm going with abandonment. I already have power of attorney. I already have that. So for Kevin to say he had power of attorney when mine was not revoked, that's another issue I haven't even brought up yet. That's going in there. And there'll be a few other things going in there. So we live in a culture nowadays where we still have a culture where people don't think it's okay for a woman to stand up for herself and take a stand for, when she's being mistreated, Like I said, Farrah Fawcett started changing things in the burning bed, and women were now being listened to. But we, a little bit more, but we still live in a society where men can get away with leaving their families and leaving them with nothing, basically, in rags, and get away with it. So it's not okay. So he went up about this time last year after he left his family. He went up to Lake Winnipesaukee, bragged about being happy without me, and went over there and, went and followed the crowd over there. Nothing wrong with Bike Week in of itself. If we were still married, I'd probably be up there with him. But it's how you approach Bike Week, right? If you're up there with your family or a couple buddies, you know, you're having fun. That's totally different than the, what do I want to call it? Um, just the darker side of it. I can't think of a name right now, but um, yeah. So he's a man who had everything, a wife, since childhood he loved, beautiful family. He had it all, and he totally blew it. Totally blew it. I think the only way for him to have safe face at all would be to actually be telling the truth and say, yeah, you know, I chose to leave my family. She didn't leave me in the truck. I had a choice to take the hotels. I had a choice to, you know, work things out and communicate. And instead, he chose to go the other way. All that energy that he had going out and partying or whatever he's doing, he could have put into the marriage and work it out. And he didn't. And so, you know, a man can divorce you, but there are financial consequences, and there's more than that. He lost not only his wife, didn't put any effort toward fixing things, but he lost his sons. He lost a lot. So don't be afraid, ladies, as someone who shares my life on this channel to help other women to stand strong. This has been going on since February 2003, so it's been going on over a year. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and really, you know, take a stand for the lies and everything he has put you through, including the family coming at you too. Don't be afraid to stand up against them all. I mean, I've had his family coming at me for a while. My father disowned me because he couldn't take both of my kids fishing at the same time. I said, you can take the oldest right now because he can handle being out all day. My father was the type who would go early in the morning, you're talking 5 or 6 in the morning, all the way until like dinner time out, right? Until dark. And I said, no, you know, my other one, no. He's got some, I didn't explain myself, but I just said no. I didn't say he had low muscle tones, but I said no. So my mother went crying to everyone, we can't grandparent, and that is what I have heard, all the complaining instead of what you were able to do. And once I had my firstborn son about this time, like 30 years ago, I welcomed them into my life, and I didn't have to. I mean, I didn't have to do that. My parents, you know, forced an abortion on me. They had a chance to be a grandparent then, and they chose to save face, cover their own face in the community, and kill my child. So I was gracious enough to invite them into my life after that, and they were welcome to come over to the hospital after my firstborn. It was only a few weeks later they wanted to take him out, and they took him out to KFC. I let them, and then they kept wanting to take him, and they took him overnight. When I had my second one in '94, they brought them, you know, to the store. Once they didn't use the car seat, my mother's like, that's your fault because you didn't leave the car seat. I said, you could have not taken them. She gave him formula with no water. I'm like, what are you doing giving my son formula with not mixing it? Oh, it's his fault. He liked it. What? So there were some issues, and I put my foot down. I didn't like her driving. No, you're not driving all over town with my kids. No, you're not doing that, you know? Well, I'm the grandparent, and I should be able to do what I want. Same thing with his parents. I told his parents that my mother took the kids out to Walmart and my father without a car seat. They're like, I would have never done that. They're like, we would have never taken kids out. It's the law without a car seat. So, you know, there was a little bit more common ground with the grandparenting with my husband's side. But, you know, it was still, you know, don't give him the hard candy. You know, he's going to choke. Oh, he's fine. My son starts choking. Oh, you don't need to watch him by the pool, Melissa. He's fine. My son starts drowning. He's not even moving. So just my parenting was constantly undermined, and I finally had to say, look, If there's two principles, grandparenting and mother rules, period. Don't be giving me crap, basically. And, we're nice enough to spend our weekends with you. We give our time to you. We could have put more time into our family, but we went over there. Then there was if they couldn't attack me with my kids, then they would attack me with my marriage. And that was what had come next. It was the attacking with my marriage. And, oh, Melissa always has to, whenever she disagrees with someone, she has to disagree. She can't, she can't just go in with us and just compromise, basically. So, if it wasn't that, it was always something. So, putting those boundaries up was the best thing I did. And now to see them attacking me as a person, it's just something that you've got to realize it's them, it's not you. People don't usually do this in life. A lot of people are insecure. So when you're happy and you're just living your life, they're going to attack you. I'm not even really I've never really even had relationship with them. Yes, I would go over there, but I didn't have relationship and they didn't work at it. So, I live my life. I just live my life and enjoy doing what I'm doing. And they tried to breadcrumb me and live off me. They tried to live off me because I chose to have kids. They chose to live off the grandkids. They chose to try to live off my choice to marry my husband. And these are people who have nothing. They have nothing inside, and they're just trying to use other people to live off of, to make them happy. And nobody ever said, I don't ever remember saying, to Donna, that you can run my life. I don't ever remember telling Rob, you're welcome to run my life, or Carrie. I don't ever remember telling Carrie that I owe you something. So these people like to cling on. They don't like the boundaries. They like to cling on to you to try to get something because they're so empty inside and lonely. If they would have found their own life, go find your own life, go work on your own marriage, your own relationship with your family and your kids, you wouldn't be coming after me. So, they chose not to work at their relationship with my husband when he was growing up. He could never do anything right. He was always grounded, always punished. And then once we had kids, his father now wanted a relationship with him. And at that point, it's kind of too late, right? It's like you had your chance when he was young. So if that doesn't work, then they want a relationship later on at all costs with their son, although they never worked at it or earned it. Maybe finally they've decided to earn it, but they want it now because they're old and lonely. When they had time when they were younger to give to their son and to invest in him, they didn't do it. He was like a pain in the butt to them. They didn't really bother with him. They slapped him around. They didn't really appreciate him when he was younger. But now that they're old, they want something, right? And that is nothing but a bunch of scum who use people. I hate to say it, but that's scum who have nothing to offer in life except to live off others. So my husband fell for it. Maybe they gave him some money. They finally, have somebody to control in their life, and then they're still not happy, so they're coming after me. So these are people who really need some help. They're desperate in life to live off other people because they got nothing going for them. Most people who have stuff going for them, you don't have time for this. So I'm busy living my life, and my husband, wants a divorce, and he would be wise to have chose some better choices in life. He will regret this down the road, if not already. He left his whole family. He's living a life of emptiness with really nothing. And so that's what he chose to do when there was a trial that came up. And that's too bad that is how he chose to deal with things when he had a million other choices in life. So don't be afraid, ladies, to stand up for yourself. They will try to blame you for everything, your husband and his family. stand up for yourself and say, look, you know, I served you, I took care of you and, you know, your sons and my sons, our sons for years, and you trampled on your wife and you dealt with her in a treacherous way. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, ladies, and don't, you know, you don't owe him anything after he left you. Okay, thanks for joining me, guys.